In September of 2003, a man in Portland, Oregon wrote 2 words on the internet. 2 words, buried at the bottom of a long, rambling eBay listing. Help me. The product was a battered wooden cabinet, cheap, forgettable. Within months, 140,000 people had read those 2 words. Many of them believed. What followed inspired a Hollywood film, a Las Vegas tourist attraction, the documented illness of every person who ever owned it, a real Jewish prayer carved into the wood, a demon called a Dybbuk. 18 years later, the man who wrote those 2 words sat down with a journalist, and he started talking. His name is Kevin Mannis. In 2003, he was 38 years old. He ran a small furniture restoration shop at the base of the Burnside Bridge, a hole in the wall, in his own words. He worked nights at a Beaverton club called Club Underground. He was Jewish. He claimed to study Kabbalah. He told people he was a creative writer, and in the autumn of 2003, he was broke. According to Mannis, it began at a yard sale. He bought a small wooden cabinet from the estate of a recently deceased Polish woman. Her name, he said, was Havela. She had been 103 years old when she died, a Holocaust survivor. Her parents, her brothers, her sister, her husband, her 2 sons, and her daughter had all been killed. She had escaped to Spain. She had carried only 3 personal items into her new life. The cabinet was one of them. The granddaughter selling the estate, Mannis would later write, begged him not to open it. But Mannis was a furniture restorer. He had paid for the cabinet, so he took it back to his shop, and he opened it. 2 wheat pennies, dated 1925 and 1928. A lock of blonde hair, bound with cord. A lock of dark hair, bound with cord, a granite slab carved with the Hebrew word for shalom, a dried rosebud, a small golden goblet, a black cast iron candlestick with octopus-shaped legs, and on the back, carved into the wood, was the Shema, the central prayer of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That same year, on October 31st, Mannis gave the cabinet to his mother as a birthday present. She loved antiques. Within hours of receiving the box, she suffered a stroke. When her son arrived at the hospital, she could not speak. The stroke had taken her words. She gestured for a notepad. She wrote 2 words. Hate gift. That was when Kevin Mannis decided to sell the cabinet. He listed it on eBay in June of 2003. The title read, Dybbuk Box, Haunted Jewish Wine Cabinet. Opening bid, $1. The cabinet was bought by a 22-year-old college student in Missouri named Yosef Nitsky. Within weeks of receiving it, Nitsky began losing his hair. His blood tests came back clean. His doctor had no explanation. He documented what came next on his blog. Insomnia, dead mice in the walls, the smell of cat urine that would appear and disappear, roommates suffering identical symptoms in identical apartments. He sold the cabinet 8 months later for twice what he paid. The next owner was a museum director. His name was Jason Haxton. He ran the Museum of Osteopathic Medicine at A.T. Still University in the same Missouri town. He had spent decades cataloging American antiques. He bought the cabinet for $280. Haxton kept a detailed journal of his time with the box. The pages of that journal would later become a book. He described the day the cabinet arrived this way. The day it arrived, I put my hands on it, and it almost felt like the thing collapsed into a liquid state. I was paralyzed in pain. In the weeks that followed, Haxton documented welts and hives spreading across his skin. He coughed blood. His right eye swelled shut. His wife developed blisters from contact with his clothing. And every night, the same dream. A figure of an old woman, hostile, faceless. The dream that Manis had described in his eBay listing. The dream Nietzsche had documented in his blog. The dream that, according to Haxton, his son had begun to have. There is a problem with the Dybbuk box. The first problem is the Dibbuk. In Jewish tradition, the Dibbuk is a real concept. The word comes from a Hebrew root meaning to cling. It refers to the disembodied soul of a sinful person, someone who died without atonement, that attaches itself to a living human. The classical Dibbuk possesses people, never an object. A rabbi consulted by the Los Angeles Times in 2004 called the entire concept, in his words, essentially a kook subject. The second problem is the cabinet itself. In 2018, a paranormal investigator named Kenny Biddle examined the cabinet in person at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. He published his findings in the skeptical Inquirer. The cabinet was not Jewish. It had never been to Spain. It had never belonged to a Holocaust survivor. It was a 1957 minibar, designed by an American named Robert Karoff, patented in New York City. A liquor cabinet. The third problem was Havela. Researchers attempted to verify her existence for over a decade. Her name was spelled differently in different versions of the story. Havela, Havela, Haley. Manis had said her entire family was killed in the Holocaust, but she had a granddaughter selling her estate. In July of 2021, a journalist named Charles Moss published an article in Input magazine. In it, Kevin Manis told the truth. I am a creative writer. The Dybbuk Box is a story that I created, and the Dybbuk Box story has done exactly what I intended it to do when I posted it 20 years ago, which is to become an interactive horror story in real time. There was no Havela. There was no Holocaust survivor. There was no granddaughter who begged him not to open the box. The cabinet had been bought from a Portland attorney at a yard sale. The Shema carved into the back of the cabinet, Manis had carved it himself. The granite slab, Manis had made it himself. The locks of hair belonged to his friend Matthew Christensen, a co-worker from the Beaverton nightclub. When Moss confronted Christensen, he confirmed it in 2 words. That's my hair. Manis admitted he had written the eBay listing during Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement. He admitted he had been broke. He admitted his friend Kurt Morris had told the journalist, Kevin is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. The specific box was Kevin at a low point, needing some money. And 140,000 people believed him. What's remarkable is what happened after the confession. Nothing. The story did not stop. By 2021, the Dybbuk Box had become a Lionsgate film called The Possession, directed by Ole Bornedal, produced by Sam Raimi. The film grossed over $82 million. It had become the centerpiece of a Las Vegas tourist attraction, where visitors are required to sign liability waivers before viewing it. It had become a Travel Channel franchise. It had become a cottage industry. Today, thousands of so-called Dybbuk boxes can be purchased on eBay and Etsy. $20, $100, each one allegedly haunted. When asked about Manis's confession, the museum's owner Zach Bagans gave a statement to Input magazine. The Dybbuk Box has always raised questions and intrigue, and this adds to its narrative. The box is still on display. The waivers are still required. The marketing still calls it the world's most haunted object. There is one detail in this story that has never been investigated. The Holocaust survivor named Havela did not exist, but the suffering Manis described did. 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Their families were destroyed, their objects were stolen, their stories were almost lost. In 2003, a man in Portland needed money, so he invented a Polish survivor. He gave her a dead family, he gave her a fictional artifact, and he wrote her grief into an advertisement. It worked. The Dibbuk in this story is not a spirit. It is the story itself. It clings to anyone who touches it. It uses them. It grows. It clung to Josef Nietzsche. It clung to Jason Haxton. It clung to Hollywood. It clung to Las Vegas. In the weeks after his confession was published, Manis told the same journalist that his car had broken down, that his girlfriend had left him, that her mother had died, that 2 of his friends had died. "I'm getting bombarded with the curse," he said. The box is still in Las Vegas. People are still paying to see it. According to Bagans, some visitors require medical assistance after viewing the exhibit. The myth has outlived the man who admitted he invented it. A Polish Holocaust survivor who never existed is now one of the most famous victims in the history of American paranormal media. Her invented grief has been monetized in every form it can take: books, films, museum tickets, eBay merchandise, Travel Channel episodes, internet legends. The 6 million who did die are not. That is the real curse.